By the time the second patrol car pulled into the boat launch, Lorraine Bishop, president of the Willowbend Lakes HOA, was already planted on my dock, shrieking accusations about aqua theft. "This man is stealing from the community," she hollered, stabbing a French manicured finger at me like she was calling down divine judgment. "He's using the lake without paying the lake usage fee. That's wire fraud. That's maritime crime." The two teens in rented kayaks gawked at her, their paddles hovering uselessly above the water. My dog, Moose, lay stretched out on the planks, chin on his paws, delivering a masterclass in canine disappointment. I sat back in my folding chair at the end of the dock, sunglasses on, coffee mug in hand, quietly enjoying the spectacle as the officers climbed out of their cruisers. Officer number 1 attempted to keep a neutral expression. "Ma'am, just to clarify, you called 911 because he wouldn't pay a lake fee?" Lorraine lifted a blue carbon copy receipt like it were a federal warrant. "The Willowbend Lakes HOA has established a mandatory lake usage fee of $50 a month for any resident accessing community water features. He is refusing to pay and continues to use the shoreline." The officer turned toward me. "Sir, do you live here?" "Yep," I said, gesturing casually at the house behind me. "Ethan Cole, been here 3 years. And are you refusing to pay the HOA's lake fee?" "Yes, I am," I answered, "because she's charging people to use something that doesn't belong to her." Lorraine barked out a sharp, brittle laugh. "Doesn't belong to me? Sweetie, the HOA owns this lake. I run this lake. I literally have it on a t-shirt." I set my coffee aside, opened my backpack, and produced a thick, plastic-covered document stamped with an unmistakably official seal. "Funny," I said as I handed it to the officer, "because, according to the county recorder's office, the lake belongs to me." He skimmed the title deed, blinked twice, then slowly lifted his eyes to her. "Miss Bishop," he said carefully, "we need to talk about who's calling 911 on who, and who actually owns the water you're charging people for." 3 months before the dockside meltdown, my life had been blissfully simple. I'm Ethan Cole, 35, a software engineer by day and full-time introvert by night. After 10 years of open plan offices and roommates who believed doing dishes meant rinsing them and abandoning them in the sink, I cashed out some stock, fled the city, and bought a house in Willowbend Lakes, a master plan lakeside community on the outskirts of Mapleford. The house itself wasn't exactly remarkable: dated kitchen, beige carpet, the usual suburban aesthetic crimes, but the backyard opened right onto a peaceful, glassy lake. Ducks drifting by, fireflies blinking at dusk, the occasional heron trying to look mystical. It was the exact wallpaper I'd had on my computer for years. Except now it was real, and my dog could pee next to it. A T closing. My realtor slid a glossy binder across the table labeled Willowbend Lakes HOA Rules and Regulations. It was thick enough to be classified as a blunt weapon. "Don't let it intimidate you," she said. "They're serious about maintaining standards, but as long as you don't paint your house neon or start a goat farm, you'll be fine." Famous last words. I flipped through it that night. No RV parking, mow your lawn, trash cans, and by sunset. The usual. I saw little sections about lakeside decor guidelines and dock appearance rules, but nothing unhinged. The HOA president, Lorraine Bishop, introduced herself a week after I moved in. She appeared at my front door wearing a white linen blouse, pearl earrings, and a massive silver anchor necklace. A visor perched on her head that read, "Lake Life Boss." "Welcome to Willowbend," she chirped, handing me a gift basket stuffed with branded koozies and a pamphlet. "We're thrilled to have another lakeside resident. The shoreline is our crown jewel." The pamphlet's title reads, "Protecting Our Shared Water Assets." I probably should have paid more attention to that wording. Lorraine made small talk, but her eyes kept sliding past me toward the glimpse of the lake visible from my living room. "Such a lovely view," she said. "We take our lakes very seriously. After all, they're community property." "Yeah," I replied. "I saw something in the closing paperwork about easements." She waved a dismissive hand. "Legalese. The important thing is the HOA manages the lake's fish, docks, boat launches. All of it for fairness." I nodded, thinking, all right, sure. Dock color rules. No big deal. I had no idea that, tucked somewhere in the county archives, was a dusty old document that said otherwise. The first sign that Lorraine wasn't just enthusiastic, but genuinely unhinged, arrived in the form of a pastel green envelope. Subject: exciting new amenity. Dear Willowbend Lakes resident, to maintain and enhance our premium water experience, the HOA is implementing a lake usage fee for all residents who access our lakes, ponds, and canals. 50-month. Basic splash package shoreline access. Hand fishing. 75-month. Silver paddle package non-motorized boats. 100-month. Golden Wake package includes guest access and priority sunset slots. Please select your tier and return payment by the 1st. I read it twice, checked the calendar to confirm it wasn't April Fool's, then stared at the phrase hand fishing. Attached was an FAQ sheet. My favorite. Q. I already pay HOA dues. Why do I need a lake usage fee? A. HOA dues cover landscaping and administrative costs. Our lakes are a premium shared resource requiring separate funding. Q. What if my property line goes to the water? A. The water itself and all shoreline visuals remain under HOA jurisdiction. I folded the letter. Nope, I told Moose. We're not doing cable bundle pricing for water. The next day, I got a follow-up email from Lorraine. Hi Ethan. Just a reminder to submit your lake usage tier. As a lakeside owner, you have mandatory participation in our premium water program. I saw your little dock so cute. I went ahead and penciled you in for the Golden Wake package. We'll add it to your next statement. Lake love, Lorraine, I replied. Hey Lorraine, thanks for the info, but I'm not opting into the lake usage fee. I'll maintain my dock and use my yard as allowed by the CC and Rs. Best Ethan, she wrote back within 5 minutes. It's not optional. Lakes are common property. If you use the shoreline, you pay. Please remember, the HOA has full authority over water access. From there, the harassment ramped up like a jet ski in a YouTube stunt video. First came the courtesy reminders taped to my front door. Observed lakeside activity without a visible wristband. Unauthorized sunrise coffee on the dock. Golden Wake perk only. Dog within 5 feet of shoreline without a lake. Pet pass. Then I noticed strangers patrolling the path behind the lakeside homes. 2 guys in blue polos embroidered with Willowbend water rangers. They carried clipboards. One had binoculars. I stood at my kitchen window and watched them stop to photograph my dock like it was a crime scene. Next, Lorraine unveiled a wristband system. To ensure fair and rule-abiding enjoyment, she wrote, all residents and guests must wear their lake wristband when within visual distance of water features. At the end of the week, a bright orange band showed up in my mailbox with a note. We've issued you a temporary basic splash band until your Golden Wake payment clears. Please upgrade ASAP. I put the wristband on Moose's stuffed duck and didn't respond. The final straw before things went nuclear was the violation notice. Issue: unauthorized launch of watercraft kayak from community shoreline without an active lake usage fee. Fine, $200. Notes: resident observed kayaking at 6:47 p.m. without a visible wristband. This constitutes theft of community water resources. I emailed her again, less polite this time. Lorraine, show me where in the recorded CC and Rs it gives the HOA ownership of the lake itself. Not the path. Not the HOA-owned park. The lake. Until then, I'm not paying your made-up fee. Ethan, she replied with the PDF of the same rules binder I already had, sloppily highlighting random phrases like water features and community aesthetic, and wrote, we own the lakes by implication. That's how HOAs work. That's when the picture finally came together. Lorraine wasn't just annoying, she was monetizing water she might not legally control. So did what any introverted nerd with mild anxiety and a deep reservoir of spite would do. I looked up the property maps. The county's online parcel viewer was not designed for dramatic plot twists, but it delivered anyway. I pulled up Willowbend Lakes, expecting to see one big shaded shape labeled Lotta HOA Common Area Lake. Instead, I saw rectangles for the houses, green strips for HOA parks, and a winding blue shape representing the lake, with its own parcel number. Curious. I clicked it. Owner of record, Cole, Ethan M. Acquired 3 years ago. Same date as house closing. I blinked. Checked again. Then dug out my closing documents. Buried behind the HOA binder and mortgage forms was an extra file. Parcel 18L water retention basin and associated lake body. The developer had sold the lake parcel with my lot as an incentive. Future maintenance at the owner's discretion. Subject to environmental regulations. My stupid little lake was legally mine. The shoreline easements let neighbors walk right up to the water's edge. But the water itself, the bottom, the surface, the view Lorraine was selling tiers for was not hers. Not the HOA's. It was mine. I emailed the county recorder's office to triple check. They confirmed it and even attached a stamped copy of the deed. Armed with paperwork and pettiness, I sent Lorraine one more message. Lorraine, please see attached deed and parcel record showing I own the lake parcel 18L. You are attempting to charge people a lake usage fee for property that belongs to me, not the HOA. That's a problem. I suggest suspending your lake program until this is corrected. Ethan. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Ethan, she said, her voice coated in sugar stretched thin over panic. This is all a misunderstanding. The developer always intended the lake to be common property. It's just paperwork lag. There is no lag, I said. There's a deed. With my name on it. Well, she sniffed, regaining her smug tone. Regardless of title technicalities, the HOA controls community access. If you continue undermining our lake usage program, I will treat it as theft of HOA funds and trespass on common views. Common views? I repeated. Yes, she said confidently. You can't monopolize what everyone sees. You're stealing visual enjoyment. I hung up before my brain liquefied. 2 days later, we hit the boiling point. I had just stepped onto my dock with the coffee when the water rangers marched down the path, clipboards in hand and a GoPro strapped to one guy's chest. Sir, one said, you violate the Golden Wake policy. You've exceeded your daily shoreline linger time without a wristband. We're documenting for the board. You can document my butt, I said. Get off my parcel. One of them puffed out his chest. This is a common shoreline. The HOA owns this access. That dock, I said, pointing straight down, is halfway into my lake. You are, quite literally, standing on me. Leave. They refused. There was shoving, yelling, them insisting they had authority, me insisting they didn't. What I didn't know was that Lorraine had been watching from her kitchen window the entire time. Phone already in hand. She didn't call me. She called 911. Hello. She gasped into the phone. I need police at Willowbend Lakes immediately. A man is attacking HOA officers and trespassing on community water. He's refusing to pay mandatory fees. He might be armed. By the time the cops rolled up, she had worked herself into a full righteous frenzy, standing at the path entrance with printed violation notices and a trembling hand pressed dramatically against her chest. What she hadn't worked herself up to do was double-check county property records. Big mistake. Once the officer saw the deed, everything started slipping out of Lorraine's control like a kayak sliding across wet moss. Officer number 1 photographed my documents with his body cam. Officer number 2 gently stepped between Lorraine and the teenagers she had been trying to charge on the spot. So, Officer number 1 said, Mr. Cole owns the lake including the water and lake bed. Yes, I said. Neighbors have easements to reach it, sure. But the HOA has no right to sell usage tiers for property they don't own. He turned to Lorraine. Ma'am, did you know the HOA doesn't actually own the lake? She folded her arms tight. We own the aesthetics, the community experience. That's what the fees are for. It's implied in the master plan. That's not how property law works, he said. Also, you told dispatch there was an assault and possibly a weapon. There was an assault. She insisted, jabbing a finger at me. He threatened my rangers. One of the water rangers stared at the ground. He, told us to get off his dock. That's about it. I watched the officer's expression as the math computed. false report plus harassment plus a property rights fiasco way above his pay grade. All right, he sighed. Nobody's getting arrested over lake wristbands today. We're filing an incident report. Mr. Cole, if you want to pursue this, talk to a lawyer. Miss Bishop, 911 is for emergencies, not HOA drama. I had already been talking to a lawyer. When I first discovered I owned the lake, I'd done a quick consult with a local property attorney, Alicia Tran, someone who thrived on weird easements and delightfully obscure water rights. When I emailed her the officer's report and scans of Lorraine's lake usage letters, she called me, sounding practically euphoric. So the HOA is collecting money for a resource they don't own, she said, using threats of enforcement to do it, and calling the cops on the actual owner when he pushes back. That about sums it up, I said. This, Alicia said, is my new favorite thing. Forward me every letter they've sent. We're going to have fun. Within a week, she'd fired off a cease and desist to the HOA demanding they halt all lake fees and refund anyone who paid. She filed a notice with the County Consumer Protection Office, flagging a potential fraud scheme. She submitted a complaint to the state attorney general, tossing around delightful phrases like unjust enrichment and systematic misrepresentation of property rights. The HOA board, who had spent years rubber stamping Lorraine's initiatives without reading anything, suddenly realized they were standing in a minefield wearing bright red targets. Board members began emailing me privately. We thought the lake was HOA owned. Lorraine said the developer promised. We never saw the title. She handled all that. Please don't sue us. Personally, we are so tired. Meanwhile, neighbors started asking questions in the Willowbend Facebook group. Wait, the lake usage fee we've been paying doesn't go to the lake's owner? So is that why nothing has actually been maintained? Because mysteriously screenshots of those posts found their way straight to Alicia, Lorraine responded the only way she knew how, by doubling down. She blasted out an all-caps email. Ignore false claims about lake ownership. The HOA retains full moral control of community water. Regardless of technical title, all residents must continue paying lake fees pending legal clarification. Failure to do so will result in liens. Moral control? Alicia said, when I forwarded it. Oh, framing this one. The showdown came at the special lake governance meeting. Lorraine, called I, thinking it would be her triumphant moment to re-establish her rule. Instead, half the neighborhood showed up. A local reporter slipped in through the back, and the county consumer protection investigator took a seat in the front row with a notebook. The clubhouse smelled like burned coffee and simmering resentment. Lorraine stood at the podium in a navy blazer with a tiny anchor pin. Stacks of papers fanned out in front of her. Behind her hung a banner that read, "Preserving Our Water Legacy." She launched into a PowerPoint about shared aquatic vision and future kayaking festivals. People coughed. Someone in the back muttered, "Where's the refund slide?" Then Alicia stood up. "Counsel for Ethan Cole," she said mildly, plugging her laptop into the projector. "If the board would be so kind, I have a few documents to share. Slide 1. Parcel map. Willowbend Lakes. The lake parcel is glowing bright blue with my name on it. Official county seal at the bottom. Slide 2. A deed excerpt with the words grants and conveys and a lake body known as Parcel 18L to Ethan M. Cole. Slide 3. Page from the HOA's own public offering statement, where the developer described the lake as privately held with easements granted. Slide 4. A collage of Lorraine's lake usage fee letters, wristband instructions, and tiered packages including a bullet point for projected lake usage revenue, $45,000 per year. The room fell silent except for one whispered, "Oh, she's cooked." Alicia clicked to the final slide, a simple list titled, "What this means. HOA sold access to property it does not own. Residents paid under false pretenses. HOA threatened liens and law enforcement to enforce these fees." The HOA president called 911 on the actual lake owner for exercising his rights. She turned to the board. "You have a massive problem. My client has been more than patient. We are prepared to pursue civil claims. But first, we'd like to hear how you plan to fix this. Every eye in the room turned to Lorraine. She reacted the way dictators do when their statues start wobbling. She blamed everyone else. The developer misled us, she snapped. The board didn't ask the right questions. Ethan is being petty about technicalities. A board member leaned into the mic. Lorraine, you told us the lake was common. We asked about the deed. You said it was handled. You designed the fee structure. You hired the water rangers under your authority. She opened her mouth to argue, but he cut her off with a sigh. We're volunteers. You're the one with Lake Czar on your coffee mug. Then the county investigator spoke, calm, measured, and deadly. Miss Bishop, she said, our office is opening a formal inquiry into the lake usage fee program. Given what we've reviewed, there are serious questions about fraud and misuse of 911. You could practically hear Lorraine's pulse spike. In the end, the board, led by a suddenly courageous treasurer, called for an immediate vote. It passed with only one dissenting voice. Really? Oh, surprise who that was. Lake usage fee program terminated. All lake fee funds to be audited and refunded. Lorraine Bishop has been removed as HOA president, effective immediately, pending investigation. She tried to interrupt. You can't remove me in the middle of a, but the treasurer was already taking her key card and gavel. It was not what anyone would call a graceful transition. A week later, the state attorney general announced a settlement. Willow Bend Lake's HOA had to repay all collected lake fees plus penalties. They were barred from ever again implementing usage fees for property they didn't own. Mandatory training on property rights and consumer law was required. Lorraine herself was fined $5,000 and formally reprimanded for abusing 911. And the cherry on top, as part of a separate civil agreement, any future HOA work she does must include a printed disclosure. Previously involved in an authorized amenity fee program, subject to state enforcement action. In other words, a giant, blinking do not trust near water warning permanently stapled to her or some. Lorraine stood there in the clubhouse as the treasurer read the settlement terms aloud, her face pale, her hands trembling. The anchor pin on her blazer caught the light one last time before she turned and walked out. The banner behind her suddenly looked less like a proud proclamation and more like evidence in a fraud case. The water rangers, newly reassigned to volunteer landscaping duty, watched her leave without a word.